it sparked what I would call a sexual awakening. And ever since that moment, like I just felt like all of me. I felt whole.
Welcome to Reclaim Your Radiance, a sex, love, and relationship podcast where our focus is on your most important relationship, the one with yourself. Each episode, we are joined by an insightful guest who shares their story about how they've become their best, most radiant selves, despite diverse challenges. We dive into the depths of loving yourself, creating healthy relationships, and prioritizing pleasure, play, and joy, all while never shying away from the tough stuff. Are you ready? Let's get to it. Hello, and welcome back to Reclaim Your Radiance. On today's episode, we discuss how to and what it means to use your sexual energy for personal transformation. We get into how to really start excavating your own shame, as well as looking at what it means to be embodied, what sacred sexuality really means, what sex really is and isn't, and then loads of amazing launching points for you in your own journey of figuring out what you actually want, and some tips on what might help you get there. Joining us today and sharing her own story of how she used her sexual energy for major personal transformation is Erika. She is an intimacy, embodiment, and women's leadership coach. She is very passionate about living life on her own terms and doing what turns her on. She went from being unable to express herself and feeling like she was unworthy to being fully in her radiance and feeling sexually awakened and whole. Her story is truly inspiring, and I'm so excited for you to listen in. If you wish to find out more about Erika and her work, she is currently in a creative portal, birthing many juicy experiences for women and non-binary humans. Follow her on Instagram at the.pleasure.nymph to stay in the loop. This December, she'll be leading a 21-day pleasure challenge, and later this year, she'll be launching the Honeypot Collective as well, a virtual hub for femme, social, environmental, and pleasure activists to network, take radical action for planetary change, and be nourished with support and resources from the community. Finally, she is also hosting a Wild Woman backpacking retreat in spring of 2024. Take a look if any of that interests you. And so, without further ado, on to the podcast. Hello, Erika. It's good to see you.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Yes, absolutely. It's such a pleasure to have you here today. I'm wondering, how are you arriving in this moment? How does it feel to be in your body right now?
I'm arriving really grounded and in my body, actually. That was an intention that I wanted to set coming into this. And I'm here. I'm in my body. I'm open. I'm ready for the conversation. And yeah, I'll just share some other things that are going on in my life right now. I'm preparing to go on a month-long backpacking trip. And then after that, moving across the country. So I'm in the process of selling all of my belongings and doing all the detailed planning for that adventure. So it's really cool. Like, even though I'm kind of uprooting myself, I'm feeling really grounded in this moment. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, wow. That's such a wonderful reflection to have of like, that even though everything is like chaotic outside, that there's like peace and calm and groundedness within. That's so beautiful. All right, thank you for sharing. So before we get into like the depths of your story, because I'm so excited for listeners to hear how you've gotten from where you were to where you are, and like there's just so much to take from there. I would love for you to start with like a pitch or a summary, kind of a description of what sexual energy for personal transformation, like what does that mean to you?
Yeah. Sexual energy for personal transformation. To start out, it's more than sex and orgasms and what happens in the bedroom. It's so much more than that. I really see it as an intimate connection to yourself, your body, your energy, your emotions, and utilizing all of that for creative power in your life, to create your life. if we think about sex, it is an energy of creation. We think about it as creating humans or creating animals and beings and things like that. But it can also be used to create all things in life, create ideas, create a business, create artwork, create a relationship. So I really want folks to understand that sexual energy is, more than just feeling aroused. It's this energy of creation. It's this life force energy that's surging through you, and using that to evoke one's transformation is another aspect of that. I see that sex and how we relate to our sexual energy, our bodies, our emotions, our hearts, our desires, it reveals so much about one's life. Like oftentimes what is happening in the bedroom or in your intimate relationships or in just your intimate connection with yourself is a revealer to things and ways of being that are showing up outside of the bedroom in your life as a whole. So when we can look at those areas and those things that are happening, those things that are coming up, things that you're doing or not doing in the bedroom, which is one of the most taboo and vulnerable spaces. And if we can own our power and our voice and our connection to ourselves and others in that space, then it can become a natural pathway to own your power, your voice, your desires, your connection to yourself and others in all other areas of your life. Because oftentimes the way we show up in one area of our life is the way we show up in all other areas or most other areas in our life. So to me, it's more so this like holistic connection with yourself. And if we're not paying attention to our sexual energy, it's a part of ourselves that is not turned on or is not tapped into. And if you can imagine, if there's any part of yourself you're disconnected from, then you're not necessarily leading your life from wholeness or from all of you. So there's so much power in tapping into those maybe taboo or misunderstood parts of yourself.
Yes. Yes. Now that is such a full, beautiful answer. Thank you so much for that. I'm just sitting here nodding along. You all can't see me, but I'm like, yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Like they say that like one of the best like business methods of like becoming like a boss in business is like literally master yourself in the bedroom first. And like, it all translates. Everything translates from one place to the other. And like sexual energy is such a potent energy that people don't tap into. Also because people don't feel like they're they're able to, or that there's like permission there. Right. Whereas like sexual energy is yours. Like if you're not directing it towards someone else, if you're not pushing it out of yourself, then it's yours. And it's not in any way wrong or like pushing, like going counter to anybody else's consent.
Yeah, that's another thing that's highly misunderstood in this space of sexual energy, because oftentimes when people think about sex, it's, two or more people to create that. And people don't realize that, I can actually tap into my sexual energy or, evoke it and channel it just by myself. Like you don't need a partner. You don't need to be in a relationship to experience the healing effects and the power that it has.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, well said. So, okay, let's dive into the story then. Would you be able to walk us through? So start with like where you are right now and like what you're experiencing in terms of like just, your life right now, but walk us through where you are. And then also like connect back to when is the first time that you really had that spark, that you had that moment of like, I need to go in this direction, or, something is not right and I want to change this, and kind of like walk us through from then until now.
Yeah, definitely. So I would say where I am in my life right now and what I continue to step into is my personal philosophy to live my life by my design. like not what anyone else has told me to do, but truly authentically pioneer the life path that turns me on. So one example, this backpacking trip that I'm about to go on, taking a whole month from disconnecting from society, taking a whole month off from work, like my past self would have never thought that I could do that. You hear the things from society like, oh, you need to work, or that's so dangerous, and all these different things. And I'm at a point in my life right now where I can do these things and other things because I just want to. It doesn't have to make sense for other people, but it makes sense for me. And that is my authentic expression in life. And I definitely have not always been able to express myself authentically and fully. Like a past self would have never thought I could be on a podcast. Like that would have been a crazy thought. So yeah, that's kind of where I am right now. And also help clients do the same and step into their unleashed self-expression and tap into the more taboo parts of themselves that they don't think belong on stage or can't be shared with others, and rewriting the story about that. So yeah, a past self of mine was not fully self-expressed. I was actually quite shy growing up and would really hesitate in sharing my voice, taking up space in a room, just believing in myself overall. And even, despite that, like I still have always been a quite courageous person and have always seen and wanted to do really big things for my life. I feel like I was always like, there were two parts of me. One was always holding myself back, and my soul, the other part of me, was like wanting to jump into things like way before I was even ready. So anyways, like I held myself back a lot in life. And I would say, like, I love the title of this podcast, Reclaim Your Radiance. And there was a really pivotal moment in my life where I decided to reclaim my radiance. And it was after a series of events in life where I decided to turn off my radiance. And that was from some different things that happened where I thought, that only happens to other people. Like, that's not something that's ever going to happen to me. I'm sure other people can connect with maybe one moment in life where that's happened. So for me, like, getting an abortion when I was 20 was one of those moments. Took on a lot of shame from that experience. Also going into a lot of credit card debt, something that I never thought would happen to me, and yet it did. And, there's been some other things too. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was picking up a lot of shame from these experiences. And I started to become really disconnected from myself and my radiance, and not wanting to express myself in the world because I didn't think that I was worth it. And all of this was kind of happening unconsciously underneath the surface. I always just thought that, oh, I just don't trust myself. Like, oh, I just am doubting myself. Never really connected to that it was actually shame, that it was dragging like a big, heavy backpack of rocks. And I didn't see that this was happening until it started showing up in the bedroom for me. I had noticed that after moving in with my partner, whenever he would initiate sex or intimacy, I would always be turning him down. I would be saying no, like not interested, and just like always making him feel rejected. And it eventually became a big enough pain point in our relationship where I was like, okay, I need to look at this. I need to see what's here for me, because clearly this isn't working. And when I did, I decided to look within. And when I looked within, I realized that I had a lot of unprocessed shame that I had speaking about. And I realized that I was really focused on like the future, like, oh, if I just do this thing, then I'll feel better about myself, or then I'll have happiness, or then I'll be more confident. So I was always future focused. And I was never really tapping into the pleasure, the enjoyment, the gratitude, the radiance in my life in the present moment. So like when my partner would come and want to be intimate, I thought there were way more important things to do, way more productive things to do. And I actually like decided that I was sexually disconnected and that there was actually something wrong with me, more shame that I put on this experience.
Mm-hmm.
There was so much here. And in that moment, when I decided to go within and reveal that shame, I decided that I wanted to create a different relationship with myself because this wasn't working anymore. So essentially, I decided to reclaim my radiance. And I went on a journey of sensuality, really feeling those feelings instead of slipping them underneath the rug. I explored my sexuality. I was like, okay, like, how come I'm not turned on or interested in this? Like, what does turn me on? And I discovered that I was actually a highly sexual person. I wasn't sexually disconnected. I was actually a super kinky person. And once I developed this more intimate relationship with my body and my emotions, and I learned about what turned me on, it sparked what I would call a sexual awakening. And ever since that moment, because I was tapping into a part of myself that was previously untapped, right? And ever since that moment, like I just felt like all of me. I felt whole. And I was able to express myself in my life, in my relationships, in my business, in this whole new way. Like I became more confident. I was using my voice. I was taking up space. I wasn't so attached to what happened in the moment. Like I could surrender more and just all these different things. I was just so much more expressed in the world. And it wasn't just in the bedroom, like it touched all the other areas of my life. So that's when I discovered the power of your sexual energy, of sacred sexuality. And I was like, this had such a big impact on my life. I was struggling in the bedroom. I can't imagine how many other women or people don't feel like they can talk about these things and are kind of like silently struggling, even with things that they're ashamed about. So all those different topics became a huge passion of mine to bring a voice to, especially the things that are taboo, and became the way avenues that I started working with my clients. And yeah, the story keeps evolving, and here we are today.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you for going through all of that with us and laying it all out. Like those, I'm sure so many people could resonate with so many different pieces of that along the way. And I know I do, like I had a similar points, but like in different orders and in different ways. And like I'm somewhere else along my journey because we're all just not walking parallel paths. But yeah, there's so much in there. And what I'm most curious to know is like so I want to look at that shame, right? Because I think that shame can show up in a lot of different ways. And it's one of the most common kind of blockages. Because kind of what you seem to be describing is like all of us are just like perfect and shiny underneath, but we have like these layers that are on top of us that are kind of like really weighing us down that we don't even know are there because we put around ourselves to protect us, right? Like that's generally the reason why, like when you excavate these layers that are covering us, that it's like, oh, this was here to try to protect me, but based on the me that my body thinks I was like 20 years ago, right? Or 30 or 40. And so I'm curious what that like kind of excavation of that shame looked like for you, and like how you identified it, and like what shape it took. And yeah, what kind of methods you used in that area.
Yeah, definitely. So, this was a while ago, so it's like, okay, what all happened here? But I'll try my best. And I think one of the biggest revealers for me was when I followed some of my thought patterns and the trail from it. I arrived at a thought like, I am wrong. I am wrong for this having happened to me in life. And, it brings up these buckets that we put ourselves in, this right way to be, this wrong way to be. And to me, when you're judging yourself with right or wrong, there's some shame lingering there. Like you shouldn't be doing something, or you should be doing something. I always say that should is could with shame attached to it.
Ooh, I like that.
Someone else said that, so it's not mine, but it's powerful. Yeah. So for listeners, if you can identify yourself in that, you might have shame somewhere. So when I realized that, I was like, okay, instead of shutting out this shame, wanting it to go away, like exiling it, let me actually look at it and have a conversation with it, because it keeps showing up. So it likely needs some attention. So instead of trying to analyze this all in my mind, which I had been very practiced at already, like I would always like journal on my thoughts and try to figure things out, I decided to do something different and go into where does this shame live in my body, and practiced expressing emotions like anger, sadness, disappointment, fear. And it looked really wild and messy at times. I got really deep, but I just knew that these things needed to be expressed, and they hadn't been being expressed for years and years and years. I'm sure others can relate to this certain relationship with quote unquote negative emotions where we should keep them hidden, or they're volatile, or, they shouldn't be seen. And,
especially if you want to be a good girl.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Like I was literally, when I was a little girl, crying at with my parents, they would say, go to your room and cry, and like love my parents. But that's how I learned these emotions aren't okay and I need to keep them hidden. So yeah, that was a part of my shame liberation, just really letting myself feel it. And then listening to my inner wisdom versus what other people wanted me to do. I can't remember who shared this, but a mentor at one point in this journey said, it doesn't matter if anyone else likes you. Do you like yourself? And I realized I had been trying to be so many things for so many different people that had me not living the life I truly wanted to live. And I was so scared to live the life I truly wanted to live, because then I thought other people would have something to say about it. They wouldn't like me. They would be like, you're bad, or, you're wrong. It was really an act of courage in following what I wanted to do, what I thought, the life that I wanted to create first and foremost. And then the last part I'll share, which was a big piece for me, was sharing about the things I was ashamed about in myself. Shame is ashamed of itself, so it wants to keep itself hidden. So oftentimes if you're ashamed of something, it's likely a secret that you haven't told anyone or haven't told many people. So for me, I was like, okay, if I'm trying to believe that there is nothing to be ashamed about here, then I would be able to share this with people if there's nothing wrong with it. So I began to share with people I really trusted, the things that I was ashamed about, having conversations with them, like with my abortion and with debt. And I realized, wow, so many other people are like me or have had experiences like me, people that I love and respect. So why can't I have that same love and respect for myself? I really honored my humanity in that way. And it helped me to really dissolve the story that there's nothing to be ashamed about. And then I started sharing about all these things online, which you definitely don't have to do, and was quite bold. But that was a huge part of my shame story, was sharing everything that I wanted to keep hidden from others online for the whole world to see.
Wow. Yeah. No, definitely not a necessary step, but the sharing is a really important piece. I'm glad you brought that up. That you need to be seen and heard, and so much of our unfelt feelings that really like so much of just trauma is feelings that are unfelt, right? Feelings that never got to be expressed, feelings that got shut down before they ever like were able to complete the stress cycle, right? Like if you're crying, like you need to cry, you need to let that out. If you stop yourself mid-tear, like that's what's going to cause a mark and cause a lasting damage. And so much of that unfelt emotion just wants to be felt and seen and heard. Oh yeah. Like I think one of my favorite like changes in the way that I listen or am listened to as I've grown up and gotten older and gotten smarter and wiser about these things is just like being able to identify when somebody's telling you a story, like, do you want advice or do you just want to be heard? Like, do you just want me to sit here and listen and smile? Cause like sometimes it's really counterproductive to have somebody try to give you advice when you're like, no, I know exactly what I need to do. I just need to tell you, like, I just need to say it. I need to be witnessed in this. So I think like witnessing is just such a, important part of it all.
Oh, definitely. I think what's so important in the healing journey is not needing to fix anything, especially with these feelings that were coming up, like learning to have that relationship with myself, that there's nothing to fix here. Because if you think there's something to fix, underneath that is that there's something wrong. And that there's something wrong with you. Yeah. And there lies the good girl, bad girl, right, wrong again. So if there's nothing to fix and there's nothing wrong, can you just let yourself be in this current expression? And when we let ourselves do that, just like you said with the emotions, it's released, it's done. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes we're able to move forward more freely then.
Yeah, that acceptance. That first piece of healing is just accepting that it's there. And that is so much harder said than done. Like, oh yeah, just accept, right? Like, can't you just accept that this happened to you? Like, can't you just accept that this like horrible traumatic event happened, or that you've been like, because also there's like a shame in realizing, how did I not see it before? I think that's the first thing that always comes up for me is like, you notice it and you go, how did I not notice this? It's huge. It's blatant. It's like there's neon signs. It's got a whole Vegas strip in my mind. And I didn't see it for years. And yeah, just that like, okay, no, it's okay. And like, you have to like offer yourself so much compassion that like, you probably weren't ready to see it, right? Things show up for you when you're ready to deal with them and when you're well equipped.
100%. And for me, every time I've looked back on life, I can, hindsight is 2022. And then you realize that, oh, this led to this. And like, that's why that had to happen. Like I always try to practice in my life, like, things happen for a reason, or to find the lesson in something. And I remember when I got my abortion, for the longest time, I was like, I don't see any lesson in this. Like, I don't know why this had to happen to me or got to happen for me. And now I see that it led to my sexual awakening, which led to my full self-expression, which led to like the mission that I want to lead in the world and how I want to support people. So now I'm so thankful for that experience, even though at the time it brought a lot of pain with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that can go a long way. So I wanted to talk about some of like the terms that we kind of throw around in this space that I think some people may hear a lot, but like may not be as familiar with, or like they kind of get convoluted, they get like greenwashed, but like what's the equivalent of like sacred sexuality washed? I don't even know. One of them being embodied. So that word comes up a lot these days of like, oh yeah, like you're so embodied, or people are so embodied, but like, what does that actually mean? What does that mean to you? What do you think it means in like a larger space?
Yeah, I think this is such an important conversation to have. So I see embodiment, it can mean so many different things. And a couple of different things that I connect to is like being in your body. I've lived a lot of my life from just my head, not even knowing what's going on in my body. So it's like, are my shoulders tense? Am I gripping my fists? What are the senses around me? Like when I'm tapped into my 5 senses, I know I'm embodied in the moment. I also define embodiment as like embodied wisdom. Like we can know things logically all day long. And like you said, like it's easier to say than it's easier said than done. So it's like when you can say something and you can actually be it and do it too, and like feel it. It's part of who you are. It's part of your automatic way of being, more or less. And another piece of embodiment that I really connect to is like understanding that you are part of this whole universe. You know, this is my own beliefs, but understanding the interconnectedness of everything and really being grounded in the sense of all of that.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I definitely connect to that definition as well. And just that sense of being into your body mind instead of in your mind, and that like there's wisdom and, like your elbow knows more about your elbow than your mind does. And so you can like, it's kind of like sending your, like, because it's hard to start sometimes being like, okay, aren't I always in my body? Like I'm sitting here, right? That means I'm in my body. And it's like, okay, but it's like where attention goes, energy flows, and like concentrating on this one area is the first kind of step of being like, what if I just like put my entire mind, like all of my focus that I possibly could onto this one part of my body? What if I put it onto my fingertips? All of a sudden your fingertips start feeling warm and you start feeling tingly because your mind is in your fingertips. I guess that's kind of what it means, is like your mind is focused on this part of your body.
I think I probably mentioned embodiment when I shared my story. And for me, embodiment is so helpful to tap into when I'm feeling big emotions, because oftentimes if I'm stressed, it's like my mind going all these different places, anxiety or whatever. And I get stuck in that. And if I come into my body, like, how does stress feel in my body? And like you said with the fingertip thing, it's like really focusing hardcore. Oh, I feel tense in my chest. Just feeling, oh, my chest feels tense. And like when I focus deeply on that, it's like a lot of the mind chatter goes away. And it's just so much more productive in my journey is what I've experienced. So that's the value of embodiment for me.
Yeah, it's kind of like a different way to go at it. It's like you can go like let's say the problem kind of exists in the middle, and there's a line, and in the middle is like where that like stress exists or something. And you can kind of go at it from one side of the line where like you're going to go through your body, or you can go through your mind, and your mind can't always handle it versus your body can usually handle it, right? Like your body's been like holding on to all these pieces for so long as well. And so like I find it's just like a different way in, like it's like literally just a different tunnel where your car can just enter into your body.
I think it expands perspective and therefore expands possibility and solutions or the path ahead versus feeling.
Absolutely. So another like term that we could look at that has been mentioned as well, that is not always defined. And there's a couple other episodes where we talk about it too, but I'm always interested to hear people's take on sacred sexuality and what that means to them. And what because I feel like I see a lot of people describing, again, a lot of stuff is sacred. But what does sacred mean? Like why, if we're saying our pleasure is sacred and our bodies are sacred and our orgasm is sacred, what does that mean?
Yeah, definitely. When I attach sacred to something, my intention in that is to affirm that there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing to be ashamed about. It is holy. It is precious. It is worthy. It's powerful. It's divine. And I think that's so important to pair with sexuality, which is what most of us have been taught is the exact opposite of sacred. Something to be ashamed about, something to hide. It's dangerous. It's scary, all these other connotations. So for me, in claiming my sacred sexuality, for me, it was an act of seeing value that space has for me, and that it helps me become all of me, and it helps me see all things as sacred.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious what you would share too.
Yeah, sacred sexuality to me, I think like it's one of those things that I am still coming into, that I understand like in my body, but not in my mind enough to be able to express. And I think that has been one of the biggest challenges as I really dive deeper and deeper into this. But it's the acceptance of all that is and respecting it all as it is what it needs to be. And it's a creation the same as everything else. And to just hold it as like special almost, and as just like as precious and as like nothing that needs to be changed. It just is. And yeah, accepting all that is.
Yeah, I definitely see some overlaps there in how we both see it.
Yes. And actually you described it so well for me. And I was like, yes, yes, yes. I was like, ooh, how can I add to this? Like, I think you really like nailed it on the head there. So in this realm of things, in your coaching, in your work with your clients, what is the biggest, not the biggest thing you see? I'm trying to find the best words to describe this, but like, what is the biggest problem you see people come to you with, or the most common? And like, how would you start to help somebody with that?
Yeah. My work expands so many different spaces, and I would say the like highest level thing that comes up is that I work mostly with women. So it's women thinking that they need to live a live a certain way, and like the shoulds that come in, and then it's like this disconnection they feel within because they don't know what to listen to. And so a lot of like analysis paralysis or trouble with making decisions comes up. And then when we look at this in the sexuality realm, what often comes up with her is she holds herself back because she thinks she needs to be a certain way in the bedroom, like look like other people, or she thinks that she needs to please her partner and will kind of forget about her own desires and her own experience. So it's just an overall disconnection to what feels good, and like her inner trust with herself and her power to claim her own way unapologetically, and like move forward in that with, what's the word I want to use, like I guess like momentum or congruency or like staying power, where it all kind of gets to build on itself. So I mean, there's a couple different things that I shared in there. I think, overall, like disconnected from her inner wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely. The what do I want? Right?
Yeah.
Like there's nothing more kind of jarring than somebody finally turning to you after so many years of like, oh, I'm going to do this and do this. And like, you're not quite sure why you're doing it. Like for me, that was a huge part for me, is like, I'm doing all these things and I realize that I'm just acting out some sort of charade the whole time, that why am I doing this? Like, do I actually want this in sex? Do I actually want this? Or am I just, or even like in my career, like, or am I just kind of doing what somebody else told me to do and finding pleasure in it, of course, because I can find pleasure in a lot of things, but is it actually what I want? And then the first time somebody asks you, the first time somebody goes, but what do you want? And you just kind of stop and go, oh, all of a sudden you're like, it's just this, I've seen it happen in others too, that just like this kind of little bomb goes off in their mind and they go, oh my God, I don't even know what I want. Right. So yeah, I think that's what I connect with the most in that, is like figuring out what you desire. Right. That's one of the hardest parts, is just what do you want? Because once you know what you want in sexuality and in other parts of your life, you can like, it's not actually that hard to go get it once you know what it is.
Right. And I think a lot of us, we know what we want, but we're too afraid to say it or admit it. Like in those conversations with people, when I'm asking them what they want, it'll either go in the sense of, I don't know, or she'll say some things and I'll ask it a couple different times. until she really says the secret desire that she's maybe never said out loud or to anyone before. And oh, those are some of my favorite moments in my work, because like it just hits different. And it's like, okay, that's the thing to put your life force energy into, your sexual energy into. And once you do that, like, oh, there's so much less energy leaks, because you're doing what you're really meant to do, being the creative life force you were born to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of linking the two together, I would say, like, is looking at the ability to ask for things, like in one of the most vulnerable spaces in our lives, in the bedroom, in a sexual space, in an intimate space, like being able to recognize what it is you want, like really just like feel the desire and then speak it, and then actually just see that you can have it. Like it's right there. All of that was, the world was just waiting for you to ask for it. Your partner was just waiting for you to ask for it, and then is more than happy to give it to you. And then like just taking that and translating it into your everyday life. So I think that's where it really connects for me, of like the using sexual energy for personal transformation. Like that's one of the many ways in which it's like, it just, yeah, in that vulnerable space, you all of a sudden get what you want and are able to ask for it. And so of course you're going to ask for what you want in your job, because that's so much less scary, right?
Yeah, totally. That's such a great connection to make. And yeah, that's the power that I see too.
Absolutely. So what would be the next step? You kind of mentioned while somebody was coming to you with like not being able to like sort out what they desire, what would you lead them through to like help them hone in on that? It sounded like you were kind of like starting on just like literally just slow everything down. Maybe that's a good first step, but yeah, how would you lead them through?
Again, oftentimes everyone's different. I really just create the space for it to come alive. I'll ask a couple of times. We'll sit in silence for a little bit. I'll try to feel their heart and soul, and it comes alive. She'll eventually say it or admit it. And if she doesn't in, that one session or in that one moment, it eventually will. Like truly, that's usually what happens. And as far as like the sexuality space, what she wants in there, I have so many different resources and quizzes for women to check out, because oftentimes we don't know what we don't know. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like asking just different questions, like a lot of times, who are the people you are jealous of or admire or are triggered by? What does she have that you think that you can't have? And that's often a really great insight into what we actually want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Who do you admire and why? And why do you think that you can't have everything that they have? Like they don't have any secret sauce, any special key to the universe, any back door. Yes, some people start at different playing fields and there's privilege and there's a whole bunch of other different life situations that could start you off somewhere else, but it's all possible.
Yeah, one of the quotes that just unlocked so much for me when I was at a very young age, but always super ambitious, was, if she can do it, why can't I? And I constantly say that to myself whenever I'm holding myself back, to just take one more step forward.
Along those same lines, sometimes what I say to myself is, anything you can do, I can do bleeding.
Yeah, I love that one. That's powerful.
Yeah. That mostly works with like patriarchy stuff, but like it's relevant. It doesn't exactly work when you're looking at another woman, but it helps, especially on the low days.
Yeah. And another pathway to figuring out what you really want in life is looking at what you think you should do and how come, and getting curious about that. And if you didn't have to do that, what would you do? Your example about bleeding really reminded me of that, because there's so many things we think that we should do. And when our body's in that, releasing or healing space, it's like, do you actually have to do that? Or is that something you've been taught that you just have to keep going and going and going? when your body's in that more vulnerable state. So it's another thing that I really stand for with my clients, is to own their cycles as women, because women, or, vulva owning humans, operate different than men. And to really honor your sacredness as a woman and your femininity, and using that to empower you versus hold you back. It's another big piece of my work.
Yeah, absolutely. Using like, especially just again, like kind of admitting what's there, admitting what's real. Like, this is your life. You are part of this cycle. Like, fighting it is not going to make it go away. In fact, it's going to make it worse. You're fighting against the universe. It's going to win. It's a force. It's literally the force of nature. Like, you can't just push it down and want to escape it. Yeah, no, your cycle is a very good example of just allowing things to like flow through and just working with it instead of against it. And yeah, oh yes. All right, so what are some of what other kind of nuggets of wisdom, what other kind of practices can we give people like here and now that might help them kind of springboard forward, even if it's like just small questions they can ask themselves that you often find really spark kind of pushes forward and that spark things? Or let's start with that.
Yeah, definitely. First one that comes to mind that is so easy and accessible, that also can help reveal more authentic desire in the path that you want to create for your life, is just asking yourself at any moment in any day, how can I make this 1% more pleasurable? Also see that it helps us to drop more into our bodies and sensation, because pleasure happens in the body. So it kind of just drops you into more intentionality with what you're about to do, and how can you bring more joy into it and more aliveness. And it really creates beautiful momentum if you allow it to build on itself. Like, I lit a candle before I started work, or I decided to make my meal really beautiful, and now I'm like really present when I'm eating it. Putting on music, whatever it is, asking yourself, how can I make this 1% more pleasurable?
I love that. Yeah, I think my version of that is sometimes just, wait, am I not having fun right now? Why am I not having fun? How can I be having more fun? Yeah, I like the 1% more pleasure though, because that just makes it like a very attainable goal and a good just inch up to strive for. But yeah, just in those moments where it's like why do we do any of the stuff we do? Why do we have houses and families and friends, and why do we have hobbies, and why do we do anything? Like, so much of it has to do with pleasure, right? I mean, there's a lot of other stuff, but like, why do we have ambitions? Because ultimately we derive a lot of pleasure from that and derive a lot of satisfaction. And yeah, the idea of like keeping to something and like drilling in and being all like very methodical about it, like, but you can have fun while doing that.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of clients who are attracted to me want to break out of the status quo. And just what you're sharing right now really landed me into, it's just a way to check yourself. Like, whoa, am I just like being a sheep following the herd? Am I just doing what I've been told, doing it what everyone else wants me to do? Like, is there another way? That's another really great question to ask yourself. Is there another way to do this? Do I have to do this how I think I should, or how I've always done it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you want to make change in your life, like, you're going to have to do something different. So another exercise I work with my clients is just doing the opposite of what you would normally do. And sometimes it reveals really crazy, wacky, out there things like, why would I ever do that? Or this doesn't even make sense. And that's kind of the point, to break yourself out of this structured box you put yourself in, and just witness yourself in that experience. Like, what comes up for you? Like, you can learn so much more about yourself, and, maybe take something from that and apply that to your life moving forward.
Yeah. Like in the kind of same lens of like, constraints inspire creativity. Like
Yeah.
it's a little bit different, but like that, the idea that like constrain yourself and then see what else happens because you've put yourself into like a different box. Like just shift your perspective and see what else comes up. Like recently, kind of bringing it back into like more of a sexual space. Yeah, I kind of decided like again, like if you just find yourself repeating the same patterns, take one of those patterns, one of those things, and just like take it away and change it. And like, for example, just be like, okay, nope, we're not going to touch my vulva today. Like we're going to have sex without vulva stimulation. Like you are allowed to touch everywhere, but not there. And it's amazing what comes out. It's amazing where you end up going, what ends up happening, what areas of your body now become orgasmic because you've taken this one part out that everybody focuses on and puts a little bit too much attention towards sometimes, but also not enough attention. And like, you're thinking about it too much and you're in your head. But if you just take that out and flip the script and then allow just other things to happen and see what happens. So within this conversation, is there something that you're itching to touch on that hasn't been touched on yet? What is alive for you with this conversation right now?
Yeah, I would love to touch on a little bit more bridging this gap between how paying attention to your sexuality and what happens in the bedroom can reveal desires outside of your life or, cause movement in the rest of your life. So I would really encourage listeners to, well, one, perhaps discover what you desire in the bedroom, if that's where you are first. And then after that, once you kind of know what you like and don't like, or what you have a fantasy about, or you would like to try and maybe haven't yet for whatever reason, get a little bit more curious about that desire in the bedroom, because it likely reveals a way that you desire to show up in your life as a whole. Like, for example, if you desire for your partner to take more of the lead and for you to be a little bit more submissive, like, how does that reveal in your outside life, like where you would like to take things off your plate, where you would like to relax a little bit more, where you would like to trust in others more? And how can you practice both of those things, inside the bedroom and outside of the bedroom, or use that playful exploration or experimentation of that embodiment in the bedroom, and then notice what it gives you access to outside of the bedroom? Or I'm trying to think of another example, or if any of them come up for you, Kris, where there's some desires in the bedroom and how that might have revealed to you, like how you desire to show up, outside of the bedroom. I know for me, using my voice is always something that I'm practicing doing more and more, because I see myself just influencing and impacting the masses and having a big impact on the world. So that really requires me to share my voice far and wide. So if I ever notice I'm in a space of not really wanting to use my voice, my throat chakra seems a little bit more closed, I will practice using my voice in the bedroom. I'll practice saying like what I want, or maybe, no, I don't like that very much. Can we try this instead? Or I'll just practice using my voice to express pleasure, like with moaning or making sound. And it just helps to free up energy in that intentional space, or that container that you create in the bedroom. And then, after the experience, like that energy is freed up, it's moving. And then it's like, okay, how can you take that energy into the rest of your life? Like what you learned or what you felt empowered in that space, like let it keep going. Let that create some congruency in the rest of your life.
Absolutely. Yeah, I resonate with so much of that. And I find too, like how can we do that? There's also I think it's going to do that regardless, right? I think once you've kind of freed up that energy, once you've learned kind of how to express, all of a sudden you're able to express it more. For example, what comes up for me is sometimes, yeah, I'm so bad at asking for what I want or identifying what I want. And I've really been working on this lately. And so I'll even just set the space, like set a safe container for myself if I know that it's going to be hard, and tell somebody like, okay, I'm going to be really ridiculous with my asks. Are you okay with that? Like, we're setting a space where this is okay. Okay. And like, even just like a pre-ask beforehand to say like, can I be a little bit ridiculous? Like, I'm going to start asking for just literally anything that comes to mind. Like, okay, can you bite my nose? Cool. Okay. Can you like just anything that comes up, let it come through, and just like whenever. And I've noticed that now that I like allow those like even stranger desires to come through, like just I start noticing when they happen, and I can go, I want that. Okay. And then now I can ask for that. So yeah, I've been practicing it even in just like, for me, I'm currently single. So I get to just like in spaces with lots of people, especially during summer, I get to be like, I wonder what it's like to kiss that person. I can ask them if they'd like to try that. And just like, even just identifying like, oh, this is something I'd like to do. I'm going to see if they say yes to this, and just learning how to identify desires.
Yeah, that is so, so powerful. And I really appreciate the point that you made about like sometimes we don't actually have to focus on the how or put pressure on the how. And we can trust that with our embodiment, it can happen naturally.
Yeah, absolutely. That the how is not really our realm. The how just kind of happens. It's more the what. It's more the desire. And once you figure out what the desire is, the how kind of tends to work itself out. Okay. So as we get into more the wrap up space of the podcast, there's one more question I'd love to ask you. So a lot of us have a lot of different ideas and concepts, and kind of like a lot of stuff comes to mind whenever we talk or even hear the word sex, right? Like there's just like a million different thoughts that run through our head. What do you think is the most important reframe, and what reframe do you wish people had around the word sex, around sacred sexuality? It's like, just when that general word bubble comes up, what reframe do you wish people had?
This comes to mind right away, and this is really what it is for me. Sex is an act of self-expression. Sacred sexuality is me expressing my authentic self.
I love it. Okay. Mic drop right there. That's it. That's what it is. I really love, and want to bring it back to what you said at the beginning, like sex is a creative power, and that you are creating something. That's the second time in like 5 days that I've heard that. And it just really resonates with me of like, you get to create, right? And it's not something that's happening to you. It's something that you are doing. It's an act of creation with somebody else. It's an act of creating whatever it is that you're creating together, right? It doesn't have to be love. It doesn't have to be ecstasy. It can be healing. You can create something funny even. You can create connection. You can create absolutely anything. But yeah, it's this act of creation that we were given.
Yes, totally. I think putting sacred with anything, it just adds in this layer of intentionality.
Yeah, totally. All right. So yeah, now we're coming to the very end. And is there any last ideas you want to share? Any summarizing thoughts you want to put out there before we go into where people can find you and how they can work with you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel really complete with this conversation for the most part. I would just say if anything popped up during this conversation where you're like, ooh, I've never thought about it this way, or that makes me really uncomfortable, or like, oh, I might be into that. Like, I encourage you to let yourself get even more curious about those things and follow the trail a little bit more. See where it might lead you, even if you think it's nowhere. Like, cool, see what happens. See, that's a really that's like a microcosm of how you can practice your life in the macrocosm. Just getting curious about what shows up and how do you feel about things. So starting with just this conversation that you heard just now.
Amazing. Yes, absolutely. Get curious, stay curious, and follow your joy and your pleasure and your curiosity. Absolutely. Okay. So how can people work with you, find you? Where do you live? What spaces do you orbit?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I am in such a transition and reinvention point in my life. I, would normally give my Instagram handle of what it is right now, but I'm actually going to change it. So I imagine by the time this podcast is out, I will now be the pleasure nymph, which is how I want to rebrand myself. It is totally just speaks to my essence and who I am, like this magical nature fairy creature prancing around the world, just like sprinkling little bouts of pleasure everywhere and inspiring people to just be their full self. So that's what I'm about. And if you want to be surrounded around more of that energy, you can find me on Instagram at the.pleasure.nymph. And I'm also creating a TikTok with that same handle, so you can follow me there. And so many things are in the works for me after my big trip to the Colorado Trail and backpacking there. So definitely follow me and see what's coming. I'm going to keep it a mystery for now. But if you liked this conversation, you'll be really excited about it.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time and for your wisdom and for all your excitement. And I'm so excited to see what people get out of this conversation.
Thank you for having me. It was such a joy, and anywhere I can express myself and have it impact others in a positive way just makes me so happy.
And again, as said in the intro, if you want to find out more about Erika and her work, she is currently in a creative portal, birthing many juicy experiences for women and non-binary humans. Follow her on Instagram at the.pleasure.nymph. Stay in the loop. This December, she'll be leading a 21-day pleasure challenge, and later this year, she'll be launching the Honeypot Collective as well, a virtual hub for femme, social, environmental, and pleasure activists to network, take radical action for planetary change, and be nourished with the support and resources of the community. Finally, she is also hosting a Wild Woman backpacking retreat in the spring of 2024. So give her a follow if that resonates with you. Thank you for listening, you beautiful, beautiful human, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. And with that, we come to the end of this episode of Reclaim Your Radiance. Thank you so much for listening in. If you enjoyed this episode and came away with some valuable insights, the absolute best way you can show your support and appreciation is by sharing it with your friends or on social media. Your support is absolutely invaluable. To connect, find us on Instagram at @HellOfAHall or on TikTok at Reclaim Your Radiance. Or you can sign up for our mailing list to receive bonus content and stay in touch with what's happening in the world of Reclaim Your Radiance, including local workshops, retreats, self-love courses, personal one-on-one coaching, and so much more. Head on over to the episode notes in the show description to find those links, and we hope to hear from you soon. All right, everyone, until next time, stay radiant.